For people my age, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time wasn't just a video game. It was the video game. It was the cultural glue of an entire generation, the required reading of the late 90s gaming scene. It had a golden cartridge. It topped, and maybe even still tops, every best game of all times list. And it was the game that you had to play if you wanted to keep up with the playground conversations or sleepover marathons. All of this was mandatory. Except for me. Somehow I missed it. Not because I didn't like Zelda, not exactly. See, my roots with the series go back primarily to A Link to the Past on Super Nintendo. A game that felt mysterious and mythic, the kind of adventure that sank deep into my imagination, where I pretended to be a little rabbit lost in the kingdom of Hyrule. That was usually because I forgot where the little mirror point was and I got lost, and all of a sudden this is a rabbit simulator in Hyrule. Whoops. That was my Zelda. But when it came time for the big leap into 3D, I didn't follow. Partly because I was too busy with my Sega Saturn and Sega Dreamcast, as you heard in one of my last videos. If you missed that, hey, click up here. I got an awesome video on Sega Dreamcast and its legacy. Both of these consoles had their own magic, but nowhere near the same cultural impact. But do you know why I didn't play Ocarina of Time? I never bothered to even rent it when I would rent a N64. One, because, we only had a limited number of games we could rent, and partially because, well, it sounds stupid, I didn't like that color of the cartridge. It freaked me out. Something about that gold plastic just gave me the jimmies. Which is not exactly the heroic reason you expect to hear for skipping one of the greatest games ever made. What this meant, though, was I completely missed out on the shared emotional experience of Ocarina of Time. I didn't know who Epona was. My peers grew up going, "Hey, listen!" and swapping dungeon stories, and I was the oddball off in Sega Land. Hey, do you want to hear more about the adventures of Shenmue? Have you seen any sailors around here? Huh? Yeah? Do you want to see who can get the best lap time on the forklift races? I wasn't a part of any of the little inside jokes or little play Zelda skits outside. It was an odd and lonely experience, to say the least. And I wonder, do you have any experiences like this? Was there a seminal work that you missed out on too? If you also missed out on Ocarina of Time or any piece of that ilk, hey, let me know in the comments down below. What game did you miss out on? Strangely, Zelda wasn't the only franchise where this happened to me. In fact, the same thing happened to me, ironically, with Super Mario 64. While everyone else was leaping into 3D with Mario, I stayed anchored to the side-scrolling roots of Mario 1, 2, 3, and World. And Yoshi's Island. Those games felt complete to me, like a perfect little lineage of adventure. And when Mario suddenly jumped into a 3D castle with open levels, I just couldn't find my way in. So, just like with Ocarina of Time, I missed another piece of required reading. It's like my generation was being handed their starter packs of gaming canon, and I accidentally slept through it all. So I had to gain all my cultural knowledge from the, let's call this, ludic cliff notes, the gaming cliff notes that was It started with the original, but as I got a bit older, Melee became for me a surrogate into understanding, a midwife for knowledge, if you will. It was how I pieced together what I missed. I knew who Link was, of course, though I didn't know what happened to his iconic pink hair. That hair was awesome. Why did they change that? I knew who Zelda was, too. But one day mid-battle, I remember she suddenly transformed into this sleek ninja named Sheik. I didn't know who Sheik was supposed to be. I just assumed that little game disc ran out of space for another character, and Sheik was somehow connected to Zelda, but was a separate character? Maybe a helper or a bad guy that was hunting the princess? To me, in my head, that was canon. Sheik was just some other character, somehow connected to that game. Forget epic time travel plots, my Zelda lore came from a fighting game. And it wasn't until Breath of the Wild that I found my way back to Zelda proper. After you miss something so iconic like Ocarina of Time, it's really hard to jump in somewhere. But playing Breath of the Wild was surreal. On the one hand, it felt familiar, like echoes of a Link to the Past or even the original Zelda, which I had gone back and played at this point. On the other hand, it was alien, because I'd missed an entire decade of evolution. What was this Temple of Time? Why do these ruins matter? It's just some building, right? There was no warm bath of shared nostalgia for me. This wasn't a return to childhood. It was more like stepping into a family reunion and realizing you only know like 2 relatives. Everyone else had inside stuff that I never got. And I think that's the core of my strange relationship with Zelda. Missing Ocarina of Time, and even Mario 64 to some degree, meant I missed the required reading of childhood. I missed the shorthand language my peers had around these games. I'll never have the same kind of shared belonging with the franchise that everyone else my age seems to. I know that it's on the top 100 games and usually is towards the top, but I don't really know why. But in exchange, I gotta carve out my own sideways connections to things that they never did. Zelda became less of a universal touchstone and more of a private patchwork relationship, rooted in a Link to the Past and filtered through Super Smash Bros., and finally rediscovered in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. It makes me think about how nostalgia actually works. We like to imagine it as this universal feeling, but really, it's surprisingly personal. Even with the biggest cultural juggernauts, what we remember most isn't the thing itself, it's the way we encountered it. The context, the timing. For most people, Zelda nostalgia might mean the first riding of Epona across Hyrule Field. For me, it was wandering through the mist of Dark World, or making up my own lore about Sheik. And maybe that's the point. You don't need to consume every part of a cultural phenomenon to still find meaning in it. Sometimes the gaps in your experience become just as defining as the games themselves. Maybe all it took was a gold cartridge or the leap to 3D to send me down a different path. One filled with Dynamite Cop or playing as a race car in Fighter's Mega Mix, which was awesome. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that doesn't mean that I didn't belong. Because even if my relationship with Zelda isn't the same as everyone else's, it doesn't have to define me. And I hope it doesn't define you. I hope your relationship with Zelda, or lack thereof, doesn't define you. I hope you can hold tightly to the things that actually do define you. So to everyone out there who doesn't feel like they belong, I want to remind you what you have experienced is yours. Your home is just as valid, even if it's not as popular. I hope you found your home beautiful. If you don't feel like you belong, if you feel like you missed something important, hey, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel. This place is designed to be a second, third, fourth home for you. It's designed for the people who feel like they missed out, who never belonged, not fully, not completely. I hope you feel safe here. I hope you feel heard here. I hope you can laugh. I hope you can smile. I hope you can cry. I've designed this place for you and people like you. I want to welcome you here. Welcome to a little bit of your online home. I'm glad to have you here. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for visiting. Take care.